What's going on, everybody? Yeah, just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Today I want to talk about letting go and how beneficial that's been for me personally. You know, something I've been doing really since my dog ate poison and is recovered. You know, everything is fine. You know, didn't even have any symptoms of illness. You know, it was miraculous, for me. But, in that process, though, there was this really kind of a surrendering process, letting go. And continuously, I've been doing that, and it's been well over a week, since that storm has passed. But it's been really helpful though, still, to continuously kind of stay present and kind of looking at these thoughts that come in. Not judging the thoughts, just being aware of them. But looking at the corresponding emotion, and this is something new for me. And when I was kind of in fear of what's going to happen, worst case scenario, what if, all these types of things, really surrendering to that, feeling those emotions, because part of my I guess maybe struggle is in dealing with emotions, not really realizing that till recently, but looking at these thoughts as being messengers of emotion, and instead of resisting the emotions and like what I normally have done in the past, escape them, through like substance abuse and addictions and distractions, and trying not to just sit in silence because, all these bubbling up emotions, trying to push them down or avoid them. Really, instead of doing that, fully embracing them and sitting with them until, stop pushing it away. Stop, letting this stuff fester, and finally just dealing with it. And, however that looks, for me, it looked like a lot of just, like yesterday, I was in like almost like a rage all day, really, really kind of a maniac mode. But instead of sitting there judging myself, I wasn't around anybody. I was in an empty house, by myself, doing jobs. I was doing a bunch of drywall work, hanging drywall by myself. And, it was real physical, which, physical work to me, I guess, is kind of like, on some level, relaxing. It wasn't yesterday though. It was just one fucking ordeal after another, just frustration, difficulty. I broke the drywall a couple times just out of frustration, and at the same time, pounding in old nails very aggressively, to the point I just busted them through the wall, and screaming and yelling and all these types of things, but not just trying to avoid that anger, really just sitting there and just experiencing it, becoming one with it on some level, not judging myself, because part of maybe if you're maybe spiritual or ultimately trying to do what God wants you to do. It's like, well, I feel these emotions that I feel guilty for even having an emotion that God gave me to begin with. It's like sitting there judging the emotion, or almost like fearing fear. Really, all these things boil down to letting go of fear. But feeling the emotions, there's like a real sense of guilt for even thinking that way or feeling that way, or carrying something unloving. When you're in a rage, you just want to break shit and you don't give a fuck about nobody. You almost get some sort of sick pleasure out of like hurting yourself and others. And a lot of that has to do with just exploring these emotions. I got led to a book then, just through synchronicity, Letting Go by the Pathway of Surrender by David Hawkins. He's also the guy that has the Hawkings scale, which I've shown on here before. I don't have it pulled up, but it was the first time reading his book, and I got introduced to it a couple days ago. I started listening to it, and there were some, like I said, I was in this kind of anger, rage, and everything people were saying just pissing me off. This book, I was just getting pissed off at like spiritual things, spiritual people, everything. I was just pissed off at everything, and I didn't really even understand why. Partly because just with what was going on with my dog in the past, kind of. The thing of that is my dog's like 16, and so processing, these things, and really surrendering, it's like why do I, am I selfishly holding on to something? Why am I acting this way? Then it was almost like it opened up a can of worms of like every death I've ever experienced, or worry if someone's going to die, or any of these types of things. It all bubbled up, and it was just like, and even when I've had friends that have died, I've had a handful that have died of like, I would say preventable. A lot of it was alcohol related, and stuff like that. There's a couple of my friends that it wasn't, but like, yeah, I had not really processed that before. In a lot of ways, I just like kind of I want to say avoided it, but it was almost like denial, maybe just like denying that even happened, and like yeah, and it was just this big can of worms, and ultimately processing that with God, going into the promises of God, being really still, it brought me into a lot of presence. But then during that whole process, having faith and this and that, but then also feeling the emotions of sadness or grief, and instead of burying them and like, I'm not going to process this right now, it's everything's going to be fine. So I just allowed it. I just allowed it to come, and allowed myself to just experience it to the max, to the point where it's just like, what, I'm fucking sick of like running from this. I'm sick of feeling guilty for even feeling this way, and really just took it to this next level, I guess, where it was just like, what, I need to deal with this head on and face it and experience it. And as I was doing that, really facing the fear, it's almost like a pressure relief. It almost felt like the more, without not even judging myself and not even really wondering how long this is going to last, just by experiencing it, it just kind of faded away. It was almost, and it's continuous. I'm continuously doing that now. Where any of these emotions, I almost am in looking at these thoughts that are popping up into awareness just in the moment. Maybe it's like, fuck that guy, or like I said, I've been dealing with a lot of anger, because this all kind of came to the surface when I quit smoking cigarettes, and the anger that's kind of been there the whole time. I'm just processing it, and working on that with God ultimately, and with that though, kind of what I've been led to do is just, okay, well, stop pretending that it's not there. Stop pretending like you can avoid these things, because what would happen is I'd get this emotion, this thought from a corresponding emotion. Maybe that's anger, and it's like, well, yeah, fuck this guy, why he's poking around, and then I'd feel guilty for thinking or allowing that thought, and so there would be like a guilt reaction, and I'd just suppress it. And it would still be there. That anger would still be there. And so I've been learning how to allow that to come up, that maybe feeling whatever way, by recognizing the thought is just a thought. But what it's, looking at it more of like a messenger of like, okay, well, this is a messenger from an emotion. I wouldn't be thinking this thought if I wasn't feeling this emotion. And a lot of times that emotion has been fear. It has always been fear, and so really looking at it and realizing that only love is actually real, that fear is an illusion, and you start to realize that as you face it and just become being, I don't know, surrendered to whatever comes up, and realizing it's coming up because God wants it to come up, and stop fighting this process. That's the other end of it. Stop trying to control. The ego constantly wants to control literally everything, because it thinks that by control, that's what brings happiness, when it doesn't. That holding on to shit, and it's like, oh, it's got to be this particular way for me to feel this certain way, because in the past, this brought me a happiness on some level. And it's like trying to recreate that happiness by forcing it, and trying to, just... in recognizing that pattern more and more, is like, fuck it, I don't need to control. God's in control. Everything's happening to me. It's being pushed onto me like a magnet. It's like I can either resist it and just stay in a cycle of fear, or I will allow God to heal that fear, to cast it out, and we're going to do that together. And however that happens, you go within, so for anybody listening, this could be totally a unique thing for me, and it could be totally different for you. It doesn't really matter. We're all on a unique path. The thing of it is like, go within, ask God. This is about a relationship with God and your creator. And in this process of like surrendering, I even got to a point of like, facing death. It's like, just bring it on. I'm sick of it, running and hiding from this shit. It's like, on all these different levels, I'm so tired of the torment of fear that it's just like, let's bring it on then. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, like dealing with these types of things. And a lot of it is I'm sick of these emotions is really what's boiling it down to it. And it's not even so much the emotion, it's the reaction that it triggers from trying to suppress it, trying to feel nothing, or being like ashamed or feeling guilty. It's like, oh, I just felt something that I think is disobeying God on some level, and I should feel guilty and shame. Those are thoughts from the old man, and everything's new now. And in that newness, allowing these emotions from the old to come in, let them surface, observe them, just be with it, but also realize that you're not alone. You're experiencing this. You're surrendering. Surrender it to Jesus. Surrender it to God. Surrender it to the Holy Spirit. However you feel comfortable. Sitting with it, not judging it, allowing the emotion to come in, and almost like maybe visualize like a pressure relief. Because what happened, what I've experienced personally is like, now that I've like allowed and let go and continuously, not feeling shame or guilt by, I get a thought, oh, next thing it's easy to start spinning out in your mind, but you're never going to get down to the bottom of it by battling thoughts, because that's not even what's going on. The thought is corresponding to an emotion, and what the emotion that's causing the torment, is a fear. And whatever that fear is, whether maybe that's guilt, maybe you get a thought, that's like, oh, shit, that you judge it as like being evil, or like, you blame it on the devil, or blame it on, or whatever, the blame starts to, whatever separates you, whatever makes you feel separate, whatever makes you feel, torment, drained. There's a big draining sensation when it comes to trying to repress the emotion, but almost looking at the thought is not even, is almost being helpful. It's like, it's helpful because now it's showing me like an emotion that has been there, that's always present in my being, that if I don't let it go, it's going to continue to do what it does. And I want to replace any of these tormenting, fear-based types of maybe trauma. A lot of like what the ego is trying to do is to keep you safe. The problem is it doesn't know how to keep you safe, and so you start falling into these patterns where it's just like, don't sit there and judge yourself like, oh, I fell into the ego again. Now, shame on me. I'm going to just torment myself and I should be punished. Letting go of that and going, okay, well, what was I trying to keep myself safe from? Am I afraid God's just tormenting me? Is that my fear? Is that part of what I'm afraid of? Am I thinking that God wants me to suffer and being basically tormented every moment of now? It's these types of things that you got to answer with your walk ultimately. I can't answer these things for you. You can't go outside yourself to get these things resolved. You have to go within, because so much of this is an illusion. There's so much of what we're seeing is just our thoughts. So much of reality is neutral. And it's hard to hear that sometimes, because it's like, well, no, this is fucked up, and this is, you start blaming everything. It's like, if you would have asked me when I was in a rage most of yesterday, I would have snapped and been triggered too. It's just, we got to just stop blaming each other, blaming other people, and really take ownership and responsibility for what's going on in our own inner consciousness, and stop blaming. So it's like, it just gets so draining when it's just like, oh well, this person's cool, but that guy's a fuck up, and you don't listen to them, they're deceived, and I'm so sick of this battle. It's like this is the whole thing is fucking retarded. Yeah, it's like what's going on in my country. It's just this just political nonsense, and I look at that even as being representative of what's going on in the minds of people. This battle between fear and love, which isn't even a battle at all. Because ultimately like fear and ego and all these, it's all illusions. None of that's even real. Because only God is real, and there is only God, and keeping that in your awareness. It's like, okay, well, how can I experience more and more of that? And it's like, well, by realizing you're already blessed, God's given you everything already: unlimited joy, peace, abundance. You're one with that. You're one with God's abundance. God is your source for all these things: joy, happiness, and it's almost like you got this present, and it is like given to you, but the fear keeps you in resistance from just accepting it and receiving it. It's like if you think of let me draw this out. It might be easier to comprehend. It's like it's almost like you got. Let me make this obvious so you guys can see it. Okay, so it's like you got you, and your body isn't who you are. But just for making this easy, it's like you have basically God just pouring blessings out on you in every moment of now. God is love. Perfect love casts out all fear. So it's like you have God who's casting this fear out, blessing you with love, joy, abundance, prosperity all the time. It's being drawn to you. You can live in an illusion and put up resistance, and live in your own fear. Part of this is letting go of the control, because in this bubble, the ego wants to, instead of just accepting the love that's already there, I'm going to try to create my own version of that, by what I think from the past that made me happy. It's like, when I was a kid before this trauma happened, or whatever. It's like always trying to recreate this, but even then it was the same way. It was this connection, but it's like you build this wall up, and letting go is not I'm going to control everything. It's I'm going to start I'm going to take I'm going to start tearing down this wall. And now this is getting real janky because the layers all screwed up. But it's like I'm just going to start to allow myself to feel what's already there, instead of resisting it. So when you start getting these maybe these thoughts that are like draining or causing suffering, instead of battling the thought, just feel the emotion. Where's that coming from? How can I bring it to your conscious awareness to feel it instead of hiding from it? Because by pushing it down, it's still going to be there, and it's going to continuously be there until you just deal with it. How long are you going to push away the love that's already being drawn to you by holding on to this wall that you're building? And that's part of like the surrendering is I don't need to make the plan. The plan's already been made. It's already happened. It's already been given to me. The problem is, not believing it. Believing that fear is real. Believing that separation is real, and ultimately all these things from the old you. Letting go of those in the moment. Feeling the emotions, maybe grief, guilt, shame, all of these types of labels we create to describe one phenomena, which is fear. However flavor of fear starts to come in, ask God to help you. Ultimately you're not alone. So any of these types of techniques or any of these things are pretty pretty unique, for your own life experience. But I wanted to share that with you. I want to share that ebook with you guys too. It's available on YouTube. Free audio. You can listen to the whole thing. I recommend it. I can put the link in the description. And other than that, I like to wrap these things up with the quote unquote random Bible verse. Nothing's random. God's 100% in control of literally everything, and speaks to us in the moment. I just want to give God a chance to speak to you, who's ever listening now. Let's see what God's got to say. Hold on. There we go. Isaiah 44:23 through 24. Sing, O ye heavens, for the Lord hath done it. Shout, ye lower parts of the earth. Break forth into singing, ye mountains, O forest, and every tree therein. For the Lord hath redeemed Jacob, and glorified himself in Israel. Thus saith the Lord thy Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that maketh all things, that stretcheth forth the heavens alone, that spreadeth abroad the earth by myself. And there you go. And with that being said, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing. I appreciate your attention for this long. Your attention is pretty much the most valuable resource in this realm. So I appreciate you sharing your attention with me. And hopefully I'm a good steward of that. And so with that being said, I appreciate you for being here. And until the next now, God bless.